Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Steve Wells, and it's about 20 degrees here in Nashville, which is a little bit colder than usual, even for the winter here. So, today, what I want to talk about is what to wear when you're running in cold weather. Depending on who you are and where you live, you might be doing a lot of mileage on the treadmill in the winter. I hate the treadmill. I will avoid the treadmill at all costs. The only time I'll ever get on the treadmill, maybe if I'm doing a speed workout, but even then I prefer to be outside. Even on a track is more entertaining to me than being on a treadmill. So hopefully I can give you some tips today to avoid the treadmill, get outside even when it's really cold or snowy outside. So there are two things that I hear people talk about all the time when it comes to dressing for running in the cold, and that is be bold, start cold, and dress for 15 degrees warmer than it actually is. And they mean the same thing. You're gonna be cold whenever you're starting out because as your body warms up, you want to still be comfortable. So the clothing that I'm gonna go over is not necessarily going to work for everyone. Some people are way colder than others, some people are way warmer than others. I tend to be warmer than others, so I'm gonna be wearing less clothes when it's a lot colder, whereas some people I've seen wearing pretty heavy jackets and pants when it's 45 50 degrees outside. So I'm gonna start from the top down, and what you wear might be the same, may not, but this is what I wear and what I found works for me. It's really important to keep your ears warm. It's a lot of times the first thing that starts to get cold, especially when it's windy outside. So I'm gonna be wearing a hat pretty much all the time whenever it's cold outside. My girlfriend has a headband that she wears that just covers her ears and is going to let a little bit more heat escape through the top of her head. I prefer to wear a hat because I can use it to regulate my temperature. If I find I'm getting too hot, I can pull it off and just easily carry it in my hand until I get too cold again, and then I can put it back on. When it's pretty cold or windy outside, I'll a lot of times wear a buff. You can pull it down over your neck. It'll keep your neck warm. And also what's kind of nice about that is if your throat's burning because of breathing in that cold air, you can pull it up over your mouth a lot easier than you can pull a shirt up over your mouth to breathe in a little bit warmer air and warm your lungs back up. I also have a balaclava that I wear sometimes. Usually I'm not getting this guy out unless it's 15 to 20 degrees and below. It just goes around your neck, has a built-in hood that you can cinch down, and it will help keep you super warm whenever it's super cold outside, keep the wind and everything off of your skin. Moving on to your torso, this is where I'm gonna be layering up the most, keeping the most warmth in. I'll usually wear a long sleeve. This is actually one of my favorite ones to wear because it has this zipper that I can raise or lower depending on how cold I'm getting. If I'm getting cold, I can zip it up a little bit higher around my neck. If I'm getting too hot, I can let my chest breathe a little bit. So when it's a little bit warmer, like 40 degrees, 30 degrees, I will be wearing just this out on the top. And when it's getting a little bit colder, like if it's dark outside and 30 degrees or a little bit colder than that, I will be putting probably a short sleeve shirt under this. So sticking a merino wool t-shirt, or there are gonna be people cringing out there, but just sticking a cotton t-shirt under this will help insulate a lot. Another thing I found works really well is tucking in your shirt whenever it's really cold outside, especially when it's windy. A lot of times wind will blow in and up your shirt and it will really chill your core. So you want to tuck in your shirt, keep that wind out of there. You look like a little bit of a dork, but it's definitely worth the functionality of it. And if I am wearing two layers, wearing that t-shirt under a long sleeve like I was talking about, I'll just tuck in that bottom layer and that will create that barrier so that I don't have to look like a nerd when I'm out there on my run. When it comes to jackets, I'll usually not be wearing a jacket. I will avoid wearing a jacket as much as I can, just because I have not really found any that I really like. This one I've had for a really long time. It's a Brooks jacket. It's a little bit water resistant, a little bit wind resistant, but it's not super annoying whenever I'm wearing it, which I've found a lot of jackets are. So I'm probably not going to be wearing a jacket unless it is really cold outside, snowing a pretty good amount, or if there's a light rain, I'll sometimes wear a jacket, and sometimes just to keep out wind as well. With rain, a lot of times I won't be wearing a jacket. I won't be trying to avoid getting wet. I will instead be wearing clothes that are comfortable when they're wet and will still keep me warm when they're wet. Moving on to your hands, gonna be among the first things that get cold whenever you're running. So I'll a lot of times just be wearing this pair of gloves that I've had for forever, and just something thin that will keep you relatively warm. My girlfriend will wear these gloves that she got for $3 from Target. They work just as well as anything else. And if you decide you don't want them anymore or they get too disgusting, just throw them away and get another pair. They're not $25. So definitely just see what works for you. Most of the time, I won't even be wearing gloves if it's a little bit warmer, not super cold outside. I will just have a shirt with thumb holes and I'll just pull my sleeves down over. You can tuck your fingers in and it'll be perfectly fine. Sometimes I'll be wearing short sleeves and gloves. It just depends on how I feel that day and depends on the weather. Something you can do is put your glove on and also pull that thumb hole down over top of the glove so that no wind is going to be getting up in there. But then the problem you have is you're not able to see your watch. So what I always do is I have glove, sleeve, and then my watch on the outside here. Not going to get an accurate heart rate, obviously, but it's a lot more convenient than having to pull back your sleeve and try to peek in at your watch every time you want to look at it. Moving on to your legs. Usually the last thing for me to get cold, especially when I'm running. A lot of times I'll be wearing shorts a lot longer than some other people. I'll wear shorts down to probably 35, 30 degrees and just layer up other parts of my body. Then when it gets a little bit colder than that, I have these Nike soccer pants that are going to be a little bit narrower down at the ankle, a little bit tighter up the leg, and then a little bit wider at the top, which is really comfortable when it's kind of those in-between temperatures. They're not super thick, they're not super warm, but they will keep me definitely a lot warmer than shorts would. And you know, it's really cold whenever I get out my Mizuno tights. So these I have had for forever. You can tell from the wear in here that they've definitely seen better days, but I've had them for a really long time, and that has a lot to do with that I don't wear them very often because they're so warm. They're made out of a material that as it absorbs moisture, it is going to warm up. That's what a lot of Mizuno's winter stuff is made out of. So I find I don't wear these very often just because they are too warm for a lot of weather, but they are super nice to have and they last a really long time because I am not wearing them that often. Moving on to your feet, usually not something that I have problems with, but I'll a lot of times wear socks that are a little bit taller so that my ankles aren't getting cold. A lot of times wear something a little thicker. Merino wool socks do help out a pretty decent amount as well. If it is icy or snowy outside, you're gonna wanna be wearing shoes that have a little bit more traction. So if it's really snowy, you could even take out your trail shoes that day. There are shoes that are specifically made for ice if it's really icy where you live, but a lot of times sidewalks will be relatively cleared where I've lived in the past, and here in Nashville, it hardly ever snows, so I a lot of times don't have a problem with that either. So I hope this video was helpful. Definitely be sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below telling me your favorite piece of winter gear, and I will talk to you guys next week.